In 1977, the Bee Gees dominated the top 40 charts here in Australia and in the USA. North Melbourne defeated Collingwood in an exciting VFL draw replay, and we saw the emergence of classic Australian pub bands like Cold Chisel, Radio Birdman and The Saints. Hi, I'm Alex Cochrane, the founder of Sheds4less. 1977 was the start of our journey. So let's hear our story. In the mid-1970s, I started my retail career at McEwan's in Victoria. McEwan's was the largest hardware retailer in the state and dated back to 1852 when they supplied tools to miners in the gold rush era. I, with 20 other keen kids, joined their cadetship program, which was a 3-year internship that taught all aspects of retail. It covered store operations, buying, merchandising, warehousing and distribution. We were the class of 77. It was considered the best retail education program of the time. I worked for McEwan's for 15 years in the merchandising and buying area, ultimately becoming the marketing manager for the company. I then went to work with many other retailers, and at the sunset of my retail career was a consultant to a number of the larger retailers. Fast forward to 2010, more than 33 years since we started our retail careers, and we organised a reunion of the class of 77. It was great to catch up with lots of long lost friends and close colleagues. The class of 77 had done well. Some held executive roles, some owned successful businesses, while others had retired early after making substantial wealth. As with all reunions, the talk soon turned to what we loved and what we hated about our jobs at the time, and a session of where are they now? What was the worst department you had to work in the store? The question was asked. Everybody concurred it was the shed department. Sheds were so heavy it took 2 people to unload them off the truck. And when you did, no matter how hard you tried, the cartons would split and bits and pieces would spill out all over the floor. Then when it came to selling the shed, it seemed like you never had the exact size to help the customer. But then when you did get a shed sold, the circus really began. You would not believe what a customer will do to avoid a delivery charge. And then it was time to wait and hope you did not get that phone call. Hi, I've started to put my shed together, but I'm missing 3 parts and the holes don't line up. This was an all too common phone call, and things like this took weeks and weeks to fix. So we all concurred. Sheds was definitely the worst department to work at in McEwan's in the 1970s. In 2010, I was semi-retired, and being a curious sort of guy, I thought I'd look at the shed market in that year just to see what had changed. And what a better way to do this than read through some customer reviews online. So I spent an afternoon trawling through what seemed like thousands of reviews. And you know what I found? Nothing had changed in 33 years. No matter if it was a bricks and mortar store or if it was a pure online play, customers were still complaining about the same things, and there were hundreds of them. Surely advances in technology, material science, and customer-facing business philosophies and processes would mean happier customers. But no, it was like the shed industry was caught in some sort of time warp. Nothing had changed since the shed department was the worst in McEwan's. After we finished our retail cadetship, the class of 77 had gone on to have successful careers, some in retail, some in logistics and some in manufacturing. The skills we learned as young retailers were applied across a broad spectrum of industries. Maybe it was time to get some of the band back together and address the shed problems we discussed at the reunion. Maybe we could start a company. So I sent out an email to the class of 77 and asked if anybody would be interested in forming a company to fix the shed situation we discussed at the reunion once and for all. 3 of the team were keen to get involved, so we decided to set up the company, designed from the ground up to make buying and building a garden shed easy. Collectively, we had the time, the resources, and the knowledge to tackle the problem. Plus, it would be a bit of fun. So was born Sheds4less. We knew what hadn't changed in the industry, customer service and the product, but there had been significant changes in the market in 33 years. A bit of research into the shed market showed that things had certainly changed. The Aussie house was getting bigger, but the house block was getting smaller. So instead of a nice neat square at the back of the house, the modern Australian backyard consisted of a rectangle at the back of the yard and 2 narrow rectangles up the side. So the typical 3x3 garden shed wouldn't cut it anymore. People needed a much broader range of shed sizes to suit the modern Australian backyard. The shed industry hadn't kept up with the shed market. The range of sheds available today was exactly the same as it was 33 years ago. The shed industry just hadn't kept up with the market. So not only did we have to fix the quality issues and the customer service issues, but we needed to have a much broader range of sheds available to the customer. Customers were facing space constraints with smaller backyards. Narrow spaces, trees, garden beds, solar equipment, plumbing, hot water services in the way. You needed some flexibility built into the design of the shed. Things like moving the door openings from one side to another, or changing the way the door is hinged, or even changing the way the roof is sloping. You need to make these decisions at the time of the build without having to do any re-drilling of holes and certainly no cutting. So we needed to design a better shed. Collectively, the team put our heads together. Since we were designing the system from the ground up, we could take account of door size, door type, positioning, and even the roof orientation. To our surprise, the system that we developed generated over 7,000 different shed variations. 7,000! Surely this would be the largest shed range in the world. I think we're onto something here. I checked, and yes, no one had done anything like this anywhere in the world. We were pioneers. With 7,000 variations, there was no way that we could offer this range in a store. This had to be a direct-to-customer online model. 7,000 variations can be overwhelming. We had to develop a tool with a simple interface to help customers find the right shed for their space out of the 7,000 possible variations. The internet came to our aid. We developed the online shed selector tool. With this tool, you can find the right shed in 5 to 6 mouse clicks to fit your space. So our first problem was solved. We had a range of 7,000 sheds, and we had a tool for the customers to find the right shed for their space. Now we had to tackle the other 33-year-old problems, and these were missing parts, heavy cartons, holes not aligning, vague instructions, long delivery times, and having to buy extra items to finish the job. Clearly, the Australian shed makers were not interested in improving the product. They've had 33 years and done nothing. Customers were facing the same issues. What we needed is a new factory. As a retail buyer, I'd established relationships with hardware makers over the years, and Tony was one of my best makers. He ran a big steel fabrication factory in China. He was the person that could bring our shed system to life. His factory was state of the art, had brand new equipment, was ISO accredited, and his team had quality control nailed. Tony had just lost some business through no fault of his own and had some capacity, and last time we talked, he was keen to get into a new product category. Time to make a call to Tony. He was the answer for our shed system. Peter and Bruce were members of the class of 77 and had been close friends during the cadetship. They'd gone on to manage a number of McEwen stores over the years. This gave them a great grounding in hardware retailing. But they wanted more. They decided that there were opportunities in becoming suppliers to the industry. Over the next 10 years, they built a company that had warehouses in each state and serviced the industry with a broad range of hardware products. Clark had also done his cadetship with us in 77. He'd grown up through stores just like us, but he too ended up on the supplier side. Clark was now retired, but his last role was as Director of Sales and Operations. He had a great deal of experience in what it takes to move things through the hardware sales channel. He'd become bored with his retirement and wanted something to play with. So Sheds4less might just be his answer. So we set up Sheds4less soon after. Here's the band. Alex, that's me, I'm looking after the marketing. Bruce and Peter, they're looking after the logistics. Clark, he's looking after the sales. And Tony, he's looking after the manufacturing. You couldn't ask for a better team. We're going to be the A team of sheds. Our vision was to make buying and building a garden shed easy. We wanted less hassle, less time, less confusion. That's why it's Sheds4less. But we wanted to offer the best value by including everything that you needed to build a quality shed that lasted a lifetime. It took us another 12 months to address all of the 33-year-old issues. And here's how we did it. So how do you address parts missing? Well, it's got to be fairly simple. It's all about quality control. I'm not sure why Australian manufacturers have found it so hard. So we've built in a 7-stage quality control system into our manufacturing process that ensures that we never have parts missing. It's simple. It is just looking after the quality. Quality control is the answer. Heavy cartons was the next issue. Common sense should tell you that a shed that weighs maybe 160 kilograms can't be packed into 1 or 2 cartons. The cartons are just not strong enough, and it's so hard to handle the cartons, people can't do it. So what we decided to do is we decided to work with our transport companies and design a shed system that had multiple cartons, and each carton now weighs less than 25 kilograms and can be handled by one man. This was the answer to the heavy carton problem, and it also protects our sheds from damage. So every Sheds4less shed will be packed in multiple cartons, and no one carton will weigh more than 25 kilograms, which makes them easy for one man handling. Holes not aligning is a 2-stage problem. It could be in the manufacturing process, or it could be in the instructions. Now, we knew that we had the manufacturing process nailed, as Tony's equipment is very modern and computer controlled, so all of the holes are in the right place. We needed to make sure that our instructions were not vague. They had large illustrations, they even had words, and what we developed is linking them with QR codes to video animations of our parts going together so that customers knew what the orientation was of the parts. This was another reason for holes not aligning. So we addressed the holes not aligning with a 2-stage process, which was making sure the holes are in the right place in the first place and having detailed instructions for our sheds. Long delivery times were our next challenge. This is where Bruce and Peter came to the fore. They had warehouses in 3 states. That meant that we could keep stock in local warehouses, which reduces the lead time from our warehouse to the customer to acceptable times. And if we keep stock of everything in all warehouses, there's no reason why a shed should take any more than 7 days to get to a customer, just depending upon where they live in Australia. Everything you need plus more to finish your project was the final challenge. We wanted to include mid-wall channels. These made your shed stronger and more resilient. We needed to include all of the bolt down kits plus the masonry bolts you needed to bolt your shed down. And we also included heavy duty bottom doorway channel ramps. These protect the bottom doorway for when you want to wheel heavier items in and out of your shed. None of the other shed makers included these, and they all thought they were optional parts. We don't think that they're optional. We think that you need them to have a quality shed, so they're included with every Sheds4less shed. In July 2012, we sold our first shed. Fast forward to 2024, and we've now sold more than 17,000 sheds to Australian customers one by one. Over that volume, we've made less than 10 mistakes. Hey, everyone is human, and we've accumulated lots and lots of positive reviews and feedback. So I guess you could say our shed system works. And I'm sure that we've made a difference to the way garden sheds are sold in Australia. Plus, I'm positive that we've made buying and building a garden shed easier for our customers. So now all I'm waiting for is the next reunion of the class of 77 to see what is the next problem that we can challenge. So here's where I need to ask you a favour. Like all small businesses, we rely on word of mouth to drive our sales. So if you're a customer or know somebody who is likely to become a customer, please refer them to the Sheds4less website, our Facebook page, or even our YouTube channel. We want to make buying and building a garden shed easier for every customer in Australia.